Okay, next question I was asked in the group is on to discuss attack thoughts, which is one of the Course in Miracle lessons. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. Well, if I identify with a limited, resentment or grievance or fear or what thought or whatever it is, or addiction thought, craving thought, I lose my connection to conscious contact with God, that infinite presence, the observer, the witnesser that doesn't need anything of the world or doesn't attack. It's incapable of attack because it's infinite. It's not identified with the limited thoughts of the ego or limitations from the perceptual world. So it's a great lesson, one of the 365 lessons. I love that lesson because for me, actually, it's a deeper lesson than you might at first glance, because every thought is an attack thought, because you're identifying with limitation and you're not having conscious contact with God in that moment. So you've gone into the temptation of being identified with the addiction to thoughts. So, okay, so the thing was, yes, the thought, God hates me. And sorry for newcomers, Hawkins teaches muscle test and kinesiology. So it's a way of accessing and verifying spiritual information and truth. And through that, God hates me. It comes up that actually past lives are real through that technique, spiritual technique. And I'm a hypnotherapist, and many hypnotherapists do past lives where you can access your past lives. But anyway, it's not necessary to know about that. But God hates me is something that is in the collective unconscious, as Carl Jung would say, in this world and in previous lifetimes. And in historically, it's a very, very strong pattern that God is a punisher, as opposed to, I mean, 12 steps is much better. God is love, and not a punishing God looking to sort of attack you and or judge you, which is a core sort of, I think it's in nearly everybody. So one has to, um, so that thought, I just think if you live in this world, you're born in this world, you watch TV, you hear people, you talk to people, and you've probably had it from past lives where it's been very sort of like, God's out to punish. And the Old Testament from the Bible, unfortunately, which calibrates as untrue if you muscle test it through calibration, most of it. It does go into like God's going to punish you, which is not, it comes out as false with muscle testing. So it's not spiritually in alignment with the absolute truth. So God is love. From my own experience, God is love. If you let go of the allegiance to the ego and the perceptions and the resentments and the grievances and the fears. So there is a loving presence within, which is not, God's love is not an attack. It's just my allegiance to the ego creates the attack thoughts. So yeah, that's a common one. So you just use all the Course in Miracle lessons. That's an attack thought. So you let that go. Or if you're doing the first lesson, that's a meaningless thought. So through doing that over and over again, if you do that every 10 minutes, eventually you lose the idea. You wash out that belief system, that negativity, that inner critical voice, that God's out to punish me and attack me. So I think really everyone has that, whether they're conscious of it or not. So it does need to be addressed. Otherwise, how can you get connection with something beyond if you got those limiting thoughts in the conscious or unconscious mind? So yeah, I think that's just a common one, part of everyone's identity, even if they're not aware of it. Um, so where do attack thoughts come from? Um, if you calibrate, I'm sorry if people aren't familiar with kinesiology, calibrate Genesis from the Bible, whether you say it's literally true or symbolically true, it comes out as true. So at some point, there was the choice to leave the infinite conscious contact with God and to choose the limitation, the tree of good and evil. And so through that thing, even though one would say, the avatars say we're ignorant, we've forgotten everything. So a choice has been made, even though it might be forgotten in this lifetime, to take the temptation of experiencing life in a limited form, i.e., identified with ego and all the limiting beliefs of the ego. So that thing, unfortunately, once one makes the choice to identify with separation, limit, and of course the Miracles talks on this on a different level. Once I'm in the separate mind, in the limited ego, once my allegiance is to, it's really an addiction to being in resentment, in fear, or a resentment just to being entertained by my own thinking. It's like, the ego is like a TV set. What's on the drama TV set? It's just an addiction. It's actually more addictive than TV. Like, oh, I'm being a victim. I'm resentful at this. I'm fearful of that. Or that person doesn't like me. Oh, I need to eat a donut now. So it's just constant limitation and attack thought. So that's where so I can say it on that's on a deeper level, but just on a simplistic level, where do attack thoughts come from? Well, it's just an addiction. Different people have different addictions to different things. Nearly everyone has addiction to their own thinking. That's what we'd say in 12 steps is, we want to get freedom from the bondage of self, So actually just thinking non-stop throughout the day. It's usually like, I'm angry at this, I'm fearful about this, I need that donut, I need that person's validation, whatever it is. So it's just usually just a lot of meaninglessness. And so it really is, if you like, an addiction. One might have forgotten starting the addiction. I think it's spiritually, symbolically spoken of. But the Course in Miracles just say, I think it's, we want to get to the holy instant, an instant that is infinite and beyond the limited programming of the ego and being addicted to it. So that's what the Course in Miracles is undoing. So for me, on a simplistic level, it's just that I'm hardwired to be addicted to my thoughts. And as a hypnotist and of course miracle students and a student of Hawkins, for me, it's just a case of undoing that unhealthy addiction. If I'm willing to do what's necessary, there are tools to undo it. And then that inner love shines forth. So on a simplistic level, where do they come from? Well, it's like if I keep watching a negative TV channel and I'm addicted to that every day, then I'll keep seeing an addictive TV channel. And that's what the thinking is. So if I have the willingness or I trust the experience of others, that it's better being in constant conscious contact with God than being stuck in the dribble of my thoughts, which are very entertaining. I think the ego hides the thing that it loves the drama, even if it's negative drama, positive drama. It's just the story of me, which is very, very addictive to the ego rather than being in the present moment and having that conscious inner connection to God's grace, which is enough. Then you don't need the donuts, the food, the women, the validation. Don't need to be in control of the world. So that's the ego's the addiction to the ego, which then disconnects one from the infinite presence at all times. So I think that's that question answered, hopefully. So I'll stop there. Stop.